The wrench slipped from my greasy fingers and clattered against the concrete floor of my garage. Not because I was clumsy. Hell, I'd been fixing engines since I was 12, but because I just heard my wife Kelly's voice drift through the kitchen window above, and what she was saying made me freeze. "I'm so tired of his feelings, Eliot. You're too emotional to be a man," I told him yesterday. Can you believe that? He actually started tearing up over some stupid anniversary dinner I forgot about. Before we dive deeper into this story, I have one small request. Please subscribe, drop a like, comment, and hit that hype button to boost this channel so more people can discover these incredible Reddit stories. Her laugh was sharp, cruel, nothing like the sweet giggle she used to give me when we were dating 15 years ago. God, I can't wait until this whole charade is over. The divorce papers are almost ready, and then I can finally be with someone who actually has a backbone. I stayed perfectly still under the hood of my pickup truck, my heart hammering against my ribs. The October wind was cutting through my flannel shirt, but I barely felt it. All I could focus on was that voice. My wife of 16 years, talking to her photographer boyfriend like I was some pathetic joke they shared between them. "He's working late again tonight," Kelly continued, and I could hear her moving around the kitchen, probably making herself one of those expensive smoothies she'd started drinking since she became an influencer. "Perfect timing for you to come over. Wear that cologne I like." The line went silent, and I heard her footsteps heading upstairs, probably to pick out some attractive outfit for her evening with Eliot Case, the pretentious photographer who'd been shooting her lifestyle content for the past 6 months. The same guy who'd been eating dinner at my table, drinking my beer, and shaking my hand while he was screwing my wife behind my back. I straightened up slowly, wiping my hands on an old rag. My reflection stared back at me from the truck's side mirror. 38 years old, brown hair starting to thin at the temples, laugh lines that didn't seem so funny anymore. I looked like exactly what I was, a software engineer from a dying New England town who'd been played for a fool. But as I stood there in the growing darkness of my garage, something cold and calculating settled into my chest where the hurt should have been. Kelly thought I was too emotional. She was about to learn just how wrong she could be. I pulled out my phone and texted my boss, Eric. "About that remote position in Colorado, I'm interested. When do we start?" His response came back within minutes. "Fantastic. Can you be ready to relocate in 6 weeks? The salary bump is substantial." 6 weeks. That would give me plenty of time to plan. I walked back into the house through the garage door, making sure to stomp my boots loudly on the mat. Kelly was upstairs, probably getting ready for her client meeting with Eliot. Our daughter Liv was sprawled across the living room couch, scrolling through her phone with the intensity of a surgeon performing brain surgery. "Hey, sweetheart," I said, settling into my recliner. "How was school?" She didn't look up. "Fine. Mom says you're being weird lately." "Weird how?" "I don't know. Just weird. Can you drive me to Madison's house tomorrow? Mom's busy with work stuff." "Work stuff. Right. Sure thing, kiddo." Kelly came downstairs 20 minutes later, wearing a black dress I'd never seen before and enough perfume to choke a horse. She looked beautiful, she always did, but now all I could see was the deception in her smile. "I've got a late shoot tonight with a client," she announced, grabbing her purse from the kitchen counter. "Oh, don't wait up." "Which client?" I asked casually, not looking up from my laptop. "You don't know them. New business, very exclusive. Could be a big break for my brand." Her brand. 6 months ago, Kelly had been a part-time hairstylist at a salon in town. Then she discovered Instagram, and suddenly she was a lifestyle influencer with 3,000 followers and delusions of grandeur. "That's great, honey. I'm proud of you." The words tasted like ash in my mouth, but Kelly beamed like I just told her she'd won the lottery. "Thanks, baby. You're the best husband a girl could ask for." She kissed my forehead, a patronizing little peck, and headed for the door. "Kelly?" She turned back, car keys jingling in her hand. "I love you." Her smile faltered for just a second, and I saw something flicker across her face. Guilt, maybe, or annoyance. "Love you too, Tony." The door closed behind her with a soft click, and I listened to her car pull out of the driveway. Liv had disappeared upstairs to her room, leaving me alone with the ticking of the grandfather clock my mother had given us as a wedding present. I opened my laptop and started making lists: bank accounts, credit cards, insurance policies, property deeds, all the tedious paperwork of a marriage that was about to become ammunition in a war my wife didn't even know had started. Kelly thought she was smart, planning her exit strategy while keeping me in the dark. But she'd made one crucial mistake. She'd underestimated the quiet guy who fixed her computer problems and balanced the checkbook and never complained when she spent $300 on a purse she'd used twice. The quiet guy who just heard every word of her betrayal. I pulled up our joint checking account and started transferring funds to a new account I'd opened that afternoon. Not everything. I wasn't stupid enough to clean us out completely, just enough to make things interesting when her credit card started getting declined. My phone buzzed with a text from Cal Morrison, my old college roommate who ran a boxing gym downtown. "Haven't seen you at the gym in weeks, man. Everything okay?" I typed back, "Been busy. I'll be in tomorrow night. Need to hit something?" "That bad, huh? I'll keep the heavy bag free for you." Cal had been my best friend for 20 years. He'd been the best man at my wedding, had held Liv when she was a baby, had helped me move into this house. He was also the only person I knew who'd been through a nasty divorce and come out the other side stronger. If anyone would understand what I was planning, it would be Cal. I spent the rest of the evening organizing my digital life, changed passwords on accounts Kelly didn't know about, made copies of important documents, started researching divorce attorneys in Colorado, just in case I needed them later. At 11:30, I heard Kelly's car in the driveway. I quickly closed the laptop and pretended to be dozing in my chair. She came in quietly, trying not to wake me, but I caught the scent of unfamiliar cologne mixed with her perfume. "Tony, you awake?" I made a show of stirring slowly, blinking like I'd been asleep for hours. "Hey, babe, how'd the shoot go?" "Really well. I think this could lead to some big opportunities." She was glowing, practically vibrating with satisfaction. Not from her big opportunities, but from spending 3 hours in bed with Eliot Case. "That's wonderful. I'm happy for you." Kelly studied my face for a moment, like she was trying to figure out if I suspected anything, but all she saw was the same tired, trusting husband she'd been lying to for months. "I'm going to shower and head to bed," she said finally. "I'll be up in a few minutes." She disappeared upstairs, and I heard the water start running. I sat in my chair, staring at the family photos on the mantelpiece. Kelly and me on our honeymoon in Maine, Liv's first birthday party, Christmas mornings and beach vacations, and all the moments that had built the life she was so eager to throw away. For a second, the hurt tried to claw its way back up my throat. 16 years of marriage, and this was how it ended, with lies and betrayal and my wife laughing about my emotions to her boyfriend. But then I remembered her voice through the kitchen window. "You're too emotional to be a man." The hurt crystallized into something harder, colder, something that felt a lot like purpose. Kelly wanted to see what I looked like without all those inconvenient emotions. She was about to get her wish. I turned off the lights and headed upstairs, already planning tomorrow's moves. Step 1 was a conversation with Cal. Step 2 was a visit to the bank. Step 3 was going to be the most satisfying thing I'd done in years. My wife thought she was playing chess while I was stuck playing checkers. She was about to learn that I'd been playing chess all along. I'd just been letting her think she was winning. The next morning, I woke up before my alarm and lay in bed listening to Kelly breathe beside me. She was sleeping deeply, probably exhausted from her evening of client meetings. Her dark hair was spread across the pillow, and in the early morning light filtering through our bedroom curtains, she looked exactly like the woman I'd fallen in love with in college. That woman had been passionate about art and literature, had stayed up all night talking about her dreams of opening her own salon someday. She'd been kind to waitresses and remembered the names of my coworkers' kids. She'd cried during sad movies and laughed at my terrible jokes. I wasn't sure when that woman had disappeared, but the stranger lying next to me had been wearing her face for months. I slipped out of bed quietly and got ready for work. Kelly didn't stir when I kissed her forehead goodbye. Another patronizing little gesture that she'd never noticed was missing when I stopped doing it. The drive to my office took me through the heart of our town, past the harbor where fishing boats bobbed next to million-dollar yachts, past the trendy coffee shops that had replaced the old diners, past the co-working space where Kelly held her business meetings with other wannabe influencers. The place was trying hard to reinvent itself as some kind of coastal tech hub, but you could still see the bones of the working-class fishing village it used to be. Kind of like my marriage, actually. Shiny new surface hiding something that was rotting from the inside. I pulled into the parking lot of Beacon Tech Solutions, the software company where I'd worked for the past 8 years. Eric had started the company in his garage and built it into something that actually mattered. Our security software protected small businesses from cyber attacks, and we were good at what we did. Good enough that a Colorado firm wanted to buy us out and relocate the whole operation. Eric was waiting in my office with coffee and a grin that could power the entire building. "Tony, I've been thinking about this all night. Colorado's going to be incredible for you. Fresh air, skiing, hiking, and the salary bump means you can afford one of those fancy mountain houses. What about the rest of the team? Are they all relocating too?" "Most of them, yeah. A few are staying behind to handle the transition, but the core team is moving. We're talking about a whole new chapter here." A whole new chapter. I like the sound of that. When do you need a final answer? End of the week would be great. I know it's a big decision, especially with Kelly's business taking off and Liv being in high school, but actually Kelly's business is mostly online now. She can influence people from anywhere. The words came out smoother than I'd expected. And Liv might benefit from a change of scenery. Eric raised an eyebrow. Really? Last time we talked about this, you said Kelly would never leave her social circle here. People change, I said. Sometimes they surprise you. That afternoon, I drove to Cal's gym instead of going straight home. Morrison's Boxing was tucked between a pawn shop and a Chinese restaurant in the old part of town, the kind of place that looked rough from the outside but was family once you walked through the door. Cal was working with a teenage kid on the speed bag when I arrived, calling out encouragement in his gravelly ex-cop voice. He'd been a detective for 15 years before a knee injury forced him into retirement, and he'd poured all his protective instincts into training kids who needed somewhere safe to work out their anger. "Tony?" He wrapped me in one of his bone-crushing hugs. "You look like hell, brother. What's going on? Can we talk privately?" He led me to his cramped office behind the main gym floor, closing the door behind us. The walls were covered with photos of his fighters, newspaper clippings, and a framed picture of his late wife, Sarah. "Lay it on me," he said, settling into his desk chair. I told him everything, Kelly's phone call, the affair with Eliot, the divorce papers she thought I didn't know about. Cal listened without interrupting, his weathered face growing darker with each detail. "Jesus Christ, Tony, how long has this been going on?" 6 months, maybe longer. I've been such an idiot." "No, you've been a husband. You trusted your wife. That doesn't make you an idiot. It makes you a decent human being." He leaned forward, elbows on his desk. "The question is, what are you going to do about it?" "I got offered a job in Colorado. Good money, fresh start. I'm thinking about taking it." "And Kelly?" "Kelly can figure out her own life. She's such an independent woman these days." Cal studied my face for a long moment. "You're not telling me everything." "What do you mean?" "I've known you for 20 years, Tony. You don't just roll over when someone hurts you. Remember sophomore year when that asshole Brad Henley was spreading rumors about you cheating on your calculus exam? You didn't get mad, you didn't start a fight. You just quietly proved he was the one cheating and got him kicked out of school." I shrugged. "Ancient history." "My point is, you're a chess player. You think 3 moves ahead? So what's your real plan here?" I was quiet for a minute, listening to the sound of gloves hitting heavy bags in the main gym. Cal had always been able to read me like a book. It's what made him a good detective and an even better friend. "Kelly thinks I'm too emotional," I said finally. "She told her boyfriend that I'm not man enough for her because I have feelings." "And?" "And I think it's time I showed her what I look like without all those inconvenient emotions getting in the way." Cal's grin was sharp as a blade. "Now we're talking. What do you need?" "Advice. You went through a nasty divorce with Linda. How did you handle it?" "Linda wasn't cheating on me. She was just a drunk who couldn't keep a job. But the principle's the same. You document everything, you protect your assets, and you never let them see you sweat." He pulled out a business card from his desk drawer. "This is my lawyer. She's expensive, but she's worth every penny. And Tony?" "Yeah?" "Don't do anything stupid. Don't hit anybody. Don't destroy property. Don't give them ammunition to use against you in court. The best revenge is living well, but the second best revenge is watching your enemies destroy themselves while you stay clean." I pocketed the card and stood up. "Thanks, Cal. I owe you one." "You don't owe me anything, but when you get to Colorado, you better keep in touch. And if you need backup for anything at all, you call me." The drive home took me past the co-working space where Kelly spent most of her days. Her car was in the parking lot, along with a familiar black BMW that belonged to Eliot Case. I pulled into the coffee shop across the street and waited. 20 minutes later, they emerged together. Kelly was laughing at something Eliot had said, her hand resting on his arm in a way that was definitely not professional. He was tall and lean, with carefully messy hair, and the kind of designer stubble that probably took him an hour to achieve each morning. Everything about him screamed trying too hard, from his expensive leather jacket to his artfully ripped jeans. Kelly stood on her tiptoes to kiss his cheek before getting into her car. Eliot watched her drive away with the smug smile of a man who thought he was getting away with something. I followed him at a distance as he drove to his photography studio downtown. It was in one of the renovated warehouse buildings that developers had turned into artist lofts, all exposed brick and floor-to-ceiling windows. Very trendy, very expensive. I parked across the street and did some research on my phone. Eliot Case, 32 years old, originally from Boston. His Instagram was full of moody black and white photos and inspirational quotes about living authentically. His website claimed he specialized in lifestyle and boudoir photography for the modern woman. Boudoir photography. Of course. I scrolled through his recent posts and found several featuring Kelly. Artistic shots of her laughing in coffee shops, posing on the beach, looking thoughtfully out of windows. The comments were full of fire emojis and gorgeous, and so lucky to work with such a beautiful model. One comment caught my eye. When are you going to leave that boring husband and upgrade to someone who appreciates you? Kelly had liked the comment. I sat in my truck for another hour, watching Eliot's studio. A few clients came and went. Young women with carefully curated outfits and ring lights for their phones. This was Kelly's world now, full of people who measured their worth in likes and followers and thought that online validation was the same thing as actual success. When I finally drove home, Kelly's car was already in the driveway. I found her in the kitchen, making one of her Instagram-worthy salads while she live-streamed to her followers. "And this is my husband, Tony," she announced brightly as I walked in, turning her phone camera toward me. "Say hi to everyone, babe." I waved awkwardly at the phone, knowing I looked tired and rumpled compared to her perfectly styled appearance. "Tony works so hard to support my dreams," she continued. "I'm so lucky to have such a supportive partner." The comments were already rolling in. "He looks tired." "You deserve better, girl." "Upgrade time?" Kelly ended the stream and turned to me with that bright, fake smile she'd been wearing for months. "How was work?" "Fine. How was your day?" "Really productive. I had a great strategy session with Eliot about expanding my brand. He thinks I could be huge if I just commit fully to the lifestyle influencer path." "That's nice." She was studying my face again, looking for cracks in my composure. But I'd had years of practice at keeping my emotions locked down during difficult client meetings and budget presentations. My poker face was better than she knew. "Are you okay? You seem different lately." "Just tired. Work's been stressful." "Maybe you should take some time off. Do something fun for yourself." "Like what?" I wondered. Watch my wife plan her exit strategy while she pretended to care about my well-being? "Maybe I will," I said instead. That night, after Kelly had gone to bed, I sat in my home office and started phase 2 of my plan. I created a new email account and began documenting everything. Screenshots of Kelly's social media posts, copies of our financial records, photos of Eliot's car in our driveway on the nights I was supposedly working late. I wasn't working late anymore, by the way. I'd started coming home at normal times just to see what I might catch. So far, Kelly had been careful not to bring Eliot to the house when I was around, but I was patient. Cheaters always got sloppy eventually. Around midnight, I heard Kelly's phone buzz with a text message. She'd left it charging on the kitchen counter, and the message preview lit up the screen. "Eliot, can't stop thinking about this afternoon. You're incredible." I took a photo of the screen with my own phone, then went upstairs to bed. Kelly was sleeping peacefully, probably dreaming about her new life with her photographer boyfriend. She had no idea that her old life was about to become very, very complicated. I lay awake for a long time, staring at the ceiling and planning my next moves. Kelly wanted to see me without emotions? She was about to get exactly what she asked for. 3 weeks into my new emotional detachment experiment, Kelly was starting to crack. She'd grown used to my reactions, my hurt looks when she came home late, my attempts to reconnect when she pulled away, my pathetic efforts to save our marriage. Now that I'd stopped trying, she didn't know what to do with herself. "You're being weird," she announced over breakfast on a Saturday morning. Liv had slept over at a friend's house, leaving us alone for the first time in weeks. "Weird how?" I asked, not looking up from my laptop. I was reviewing the relocation package Eric had sent me. Housing allowances, moving expenses, start dates. All very exciting. "You're just different, distant. Are you having some kind of midlife crisis?" I almost laughed. "A midlife crisis?" "Right. Because the only reason a man would stop chasing after his cheating wife was because he was going crazy." "I'm fine, Kelly. Just focused on work." "Is this about me building my brand? Because I thought you supported my dreams." Now I did look up. She was wearing one of her casual but carefully styled outfits, designer athleisure that cost more than most people's rent. Her makeup was Instagram perfect, even though we weren't leaving the house. Everything about her was curated for an audience that existed mostly in her head. "I do support your dreams," I said carefully. "I think you should pursue whatever makes you happy." "Then why do I feel like you're pulling away from me?" "Because I am," I thought. "Because I heard you laughing about my emotions to your boyfriend. Because I've seen the divorce papers you think you're hiding so well. Because I'm done being the fool in this marriage." "Maybe you're just noticing that I'm not as needy as I used to be," I said instead. Isn't that what you wanted? More independence? She stared at me for a long moment, and I could practically see the wheels turning in her head. This wasn't going according to her script. She wanted me to be the clingy, emotional husband so she could justify leaving me for someone stronger. My sudden indifference was throwing off her whole narrative. I never said you were needy. You're right, I'm sorry. I closed the laptop and gave her my full attention. What would you like to do today? I have a shoot with Eliot this afternoon, for the fall campaign we've been planning. That sounds great. I'll probably go to Cal's gym, work out some stress. You've been going to the gym a lot lately. Is that a problem? No, it's just different. You used to hate working out. I used to hate a lot of things that seemed appealing now, like the idea of starting over in Colorado without a lying wife and her pretentious boyfriend complicating my life. People change, I said, echoing what I'd told Eric weeks earlier. That afternoon, while Kelly was at her shoot, I drove to the co-working space downtown. Not to spy this time, but to have coffee with someone I hadn't seen in months, my old friend Marcus Chen, who ran a marketing consultancy out of the same building where Kelly held court with the other aspiring influencers. Marcus and I had been close ever since he'd moved to town 5 years ago. He was funny, smart, and one of the few people who could make Kelly laugh without trying too hard. We'd had him over for dinner countless times, and he'd been a regular at our backyard barbecues and holiday parties. But over the past 6 months, as Kelly had gotten more involved in her influencer career, Marcus had quietly disappeared from our social circle. At the time, I'd assumed he was just busy with work. Now I suspected there was more to the story. I found him at a corner table in the coffee shop on the ground floor, working on his laptop with the focused intensity of someone trying to avoid distractions. Tony. He looked genuinely surprised to see me. How are you, man? It's been forever. I know. I've been meaning to call. I sat down across from him and ordered coffee from the barista. How's business? Can't complain. Busy season, you know how it is. He was being polite, but there was something guarded in his expression. How's Kelly? Still building her empire upstairs? Oh, you know Kelly. Always networking, always hustling. Marcus nodded, but he wasn't quite meeting my eyes. We made small talk for a few minutes. Work, the weather, the Red Sox's disappointing season, but there was an awkwardness that had never existed between us before. Finally, I decided to cut through the bullshit. Marcus, can I ask you something? And I want you to be honest with me. He shifted uncomfortably in his chair. Sure. Why did you stop coming around? Last time I saw you was, what, Kelly's birthday party in March? We used to hang out all the time? Marcus was quiet for a long moment, staring into his coffee cup like it might give him the right words. Tony, Look, this is awkward. Just say it. Kelly asked me to back off. The words hit me like a punch to the gut, but I kept my expression neutral. What do you mean? A few months ago, she pulled me aside at one of those networking events upstairs, said you were going through some kind of rough patch, and having me around was making things worse. Something about you being jealous of our friendship, feeling threatened by successful guys or whatever. I felt that familiar cold anger settling in my chest. Kelly hadn't just been lying to me. She'd been systematically cutting me off from my friends, isolating me so her betrayal would be easier to justify. She said I was threatened by you? Her words, not mine. I thought it was weird because you'd never seemed jealous before, but she was really insistent. Said you'd been acting paranoid and possessive, and she needed space to figure things out. Marcus finally looked up at me, and I could see the guilt written all over his face. I should have called you directly, talked to you about it. But Kelly was so convincing, and I didn't want to cause problems in your marriage. I figured if you needed space, I'd give it to you. What else did she say? That you were going through some kind of midlife crisis, having trouble at work, drinking too much, getting emotional about everything. She made it sound like you were, I don't know, unstable or something. Unstable. Emotional. Threatened by successful men. Kelly had been building a case against me for months, poisoning my friendships so that when she finally left, everyone would understand why she'd had to do it. Tony, please tell me she was exaggerating, because the guy she described doesn't sound anything like the friend I've known for 5 years. I took a sip of my coffee, buying myself time to think. Marcus was watching me carefully, probably looking for signs of the instability Kelly had warned him about. She wasn't entirely wrong, I said finally. I have been going through a rough patch, but not for the reasons she told you. What do you mean? I pulled out my phone and showed him the photo I'd taken of Kelly's text message from Eliot. Marcus read it twice, his face growing darker. Jesus Christ, Tony, how long has this been going on? Months. Maybe longer. I just found out a few weeks ago. And she's been telling people you're the problem? He shook his head in disgust. That's really messed up, man. I'm sorry. It's not your fault. She played you the same way she's been playing me. Marcus was quiet for a minute, processing everything. When he spoke again, his voice was tight with anger. You know what? Screw Kelly. I never should have let her dictate who I could be friends with. That was my mistake, and I'm sorry. Don't worry about it. Water under the bridge. No, it's not. She made me complicit in her lies. She used me to isolate you while she was cheating on you. That's not okay. I could see the wheels turning in Marcus's head, and I recognized the look. It was the same expression I'd been wearing for weeks, the cold calculation of someone who'd been played and was ready to play back. What are you thinking? I asked. I'm thinking Kelly's built her little influencer career on being the perfect wife and mother. Wholesome family content, relationship advice, all that bullshit. Her followers eat it up. And I'm thinking her followers might be interested to know what she's really like behind the scenes. Marcus ran a digital marketing company. He understood social media better than almost anyone I knew, and he had connections throughout the local business community. If anyone could make Kelly's life complicated, it was him. I appreciate the support, I said carefully, but I don't want you to do anything that could blow back on you. Let me worry about that. I've got some ideas that are completely above board, totally legal, and absolutely devastating for someone whose brand is built on lies. We talked for another hour, and by the time I left, I felt lighter than I had in weeks. Kelly thought she'd been so clever, manipulating the narrative and controlling the information flow. But she'd made a crucial mistake. She'd underestimated how much people valued honesty, and how angry they got when they realized they'd been lied to. That evening, Kelly came home glowing from her successful shoot with Eliot. She was full of energy, talking excitedly about the photos they'd taken and the new direction for her brand. Eliot thinks I could be doing national campaigns within a year, she gushed over dinner. He has connections with agencies in Boston and New York. This could be huge for us, Tony. Us. Right. That's wonderful, honey. I'm happy for you. She studied my face again, looking for cracks in my composure. But I'd had practice now. I could smile and nod and say all the right words while feeling absolutely nothing. You seem different lately, she said. More supportive. I told you, I want you to be happy. Even if it means big changes for our family? I met her eyes across the dinner table. Especially then. Something flickered across her face. Confusion, maybe even a hint of disappointment. She'd been expecting me to fight for our marriage, to beg her not to leave, to give her a reason to feel justified in her betrayal. Instead, I was giving her exactly what she claimed to want. A husband who didn't burden her with his emotions. Well, she said finally, I'm glad we're on the same page. We always have been, Kelly. We just express it differently. That night, after she'd gone to bed, I got a text from Marcus. Talked to some mutual friends today. Turns out Kelly's been spreading her version of your problems pretty widely. People are starting to ask questions. I typed back, what kind of questions? The kind that happen when someone's story doesn't add up. Don't worry, I'm not saying anything directly. Just letting people draw their own conclusions. The next morning, I woke up to find Kelly staring at her phone with a frown. Everything okay? I asked. Just some drama with the mom group. People are being weird. The mom group. Kelly's circle of local mothers who spent their days sharing parenting memes and gossiping about their neighbors. They'd been some of her biggest supporters when she'd started her influencer career, sharing her posts and hyping up her content. Weird how? I don't know. Just asking a lot of questions about us. About you. Sarah Martinez wanted to know if you were okay because she hadn't seen you at any of the school events lately. I hadn't been to school events lately because Kelly had stopped inviting me, claiming I made her anxious when I was around her friends. What did you tell her? The truth? That you've been busy with work and going through some stuff? The truth according to Kelly, anyway? I wondered how long it would take for the real truth to start spreading through her social circles. Maybe I should reach out to people more, I suggested. Let them know I'm doing fine. Kelly's frown deepened. That's not necessary. I can handle it. But for the first time since this whole nightmare started, I could see doubt creeping into her eyes. The narrative she'd been carefully constructing was starting to crack, and she didn't know how to fix it. I smiled and kissed her forehead before heading to work. Whatever you think is best, honey. You always know how to handle these things. Phase 3 of my plan was about to begin. By the 4th week of November, Kelly's perfect little world was starting to show some serious cracks. It started small, a few awkward interactions at the grocery store, some pointed questions at Liv's parent-teacher conference, a noticeable drop in engagement on her social media posts. But like most things that begin small, it grew quickly once it gained momentum. I was at my desk putting the finishing touches on the Colorado transition plan when my phone buzzed with a call from Marcus. "You need to see this," he said without preamble. "Can you meet me at the coffee shop in 20 minutes? "What's going on?" "Just trust me. And Tony, bring popcorn. This is about to get entertaining." I found Marcus at our usual corner table, his laptop open and a grin on his face that reminded me why we'd been friends for so long. "Okay," he said, turning the screen toward me. "Remember how Kelly's been telling everyone you're having a breakdown? Going through some kind of emotional crisis? Hard to forget?" Well, it turns out she's been a little too specific with her stories. And when people started comparing notes, he clicked through a series of screenshots, text messages, social media posts, conversation threads from various local Facebook groups, all featuring Kelly's version of my supposed problems. "Look at this one," Marcus said, pointing to a message Kelly had sent to Sarah Martinez, the PTA president. "She says you've been drinking heavily and staying out all night, coming home angry and unpredictable." "I don't drink heavily. I have maybe 2 beers a week." "I know that, and so does Dave Henderson, who sees you at the gym 3 nights a week, completely sober and working out like a machine." Marcus clicked to another screenshot. "Here's what she told the mom group chat, that you've been having financial problems, making bad investments, and that's why you're stressed and taking it out on her." "My finances are fine, better than fine, actually." "Right, which is why it was interesting when Kelly tried to use your credit card at that expensive boutique downtown last week and it got declined." I raised an eyebrow. "How do you know about that?" "Because my friend Jenny works there, and she mentioned it when I was asking around about Kelly's shopping habits. Apparently Kelly made a scene claiming there must be some mistake, that her husband would never cut off her credit without telling her. I had, in fact, reduced the limits on our joint credit cards, not eliminated them entirely, that would have been too obvious, but brought them down to reasonable levels that reflected our actual household budget rather than Kelly's influencer fantasies. The thing is," Marcus continued, "Kelly's been telling people that you're financially irresponsible, but then she's the one getting cards declined for trying to buy a $1,200 handbag. People are starting to notice the contradiction." He pulled up another thread, this one from a local business networking group that Kelly had joined. "And here's my personal favorite. She told this group that you've been jealous and controlling, trying to isolate her from her friends and sabotage her career. Let me guess, that one backfired too?" "Spectacularly. Because 3 people in that group have known you for years, and they've seen how supportive you've always been of Kelly's projects. They remember you helping set up her booth at the craft fair, building her that photography backdrop in the garage, driving her to networking events even when you were exhausted from work." Marcus leaned back in his chair, clearly enjoying himself. "The best part is, I haven't had to say a word against Kelly. I've just been asking innocent questions." "Oh, really? That's strange, because when I saw Tony last week, he seemed fine." "Huh. I thought Tony was the one who encouraged Kelly to start her Instagram in the first place." "Are we talking about the same Tony who helped organize the charity drive last year?" I had to admit, it was elegant. Kelly had been so focused on controlling the narrative that she'd forgotten the most important rule of lying: keep your stories consistent. "There's more," Marcus said, pulling up Kelly's Instagram profile. "Her engagement numbers have been dropping steadily over the past 2 weeks. People are still following her, but they're not liking or commenting as much. And look at this." He showed me the comments on Kelly's most recent post, a carefully staged photo of her morning coffee with some inspirational quote about choosing happiness. Most of the comments were the usual generic compliments, but scattered throughout were more pointed observations. "Hope everything's okay at home." "Sending prayers for your family during this difficult time. You're so strong for staying positive while dealing with everything." "What's she dealing with?" I asked. "That's the beauty of it. Nobody knows exactly, but everyone knows something's wrong. Kelly's been so vague with her stories about your problems that people are filling in the blanks with their own assumptions. Some think you're having an affair, some think you're having a nervous breakdown, some think you've lost your job." Marcus closed the laptop and leaned forward, his expression growing more serious. "But here's the thing, Tony. This is just the beginning. Kelly's built her entire online persona around being the perfect wife and mother, living this aspirational lifestyle that other women want to emulate. If that image starts to crack, it all comes down." "Exactly, and I think it's about to crack wide open." He wasn't wrong. That evening, I came home to find Kelly pacing around the kitchen like a caged animal, her phone clutched in her hand. "Bad day?" I asked mildly, loosening my tie. "People are being so weird lately. I don't understand what's happening." "What do you mean?" "Just questions, comments, like everyone's waiting for some kind of drama that doesn't exist. I opened the refrigerator and pulled out a beer, taking my time with the response. Maybe they're just concerned about us. You have been telling people I'm going through a rough patch. Kelly's eyes snapped to my face. I was trying to protect your privacy. People were asking why you seemed distant at events, why you weren't around as much. I thought it was better to give them a simple explanation than to let them speculate. That was thoughtful of you. Then why do I feel like it's backfiring? Because lies always backfire eventually, I thought. Because you can't build a relationship or a brand on deception without it eventually collapsing under its own weight. Maybe people are just more perceptive than you give them credit for, I said instead. Kelly stared at me for a long moment, and I could see her trying to figure out if that was an insult or an observation. Tony, I need to ask you something, and I need you to be honest with me. Of course. Are you planning to leave me? The question hung in the air between us like smoke. Kelly was watching my face intently, looking for any sign of the emotional reaction she was expecting. 6 months ago, the question would have broken my heart. 3 months ago, it would have made me angry. Now, it just made me tired. Kelly, I said carefully, I think we both know this marriage has been over for a while. Her face went pale. What's that supposed to mean? It means we've been living like roommates for months. It means you're building a life that doesn't include me, and I'm okay with that. It means maybe it's time we both stop pretending. I'm not pretending anything. Aren't you? The silence stretched between us, filled with all the things we weren't saying. Kelly's affair with Eliot, the divorce papers I wasn't supposed to know about, the lies she'd been telling our friends and neighbors, the careful way she'd been distancing herself from our marriage while making it look like my fault. If you want to leave, she said finally, just leave. Don't make this about me. I'm not making it about anything. I'm just acknowledging reality. Kelly's phone buzzed with a notification, and she glanced down at it automatically. Whatever she saw made her frown deepen. What is it? Nothing, just more weirdness. She showed me the screen reluctantly. It was a direct message on Instagram from someone I didn't recognize. Girl, I saw your husband at Morrison's boxing gym last night, and he looked fine. Whatever problems you're having at home, he's handling them well. You better hold on to that one. I almost smiled. Cal's gym was in the heart of town, visible from the main street. Of course, people had noticed me going there regularly. And of course, they'd noticed that I looked healthy, focused, and completely unlike the emotional wreck Kelly had been describing. See what I mean? Kelly said. People are acting like they know something I don't. Maybe they do. What's that supposed to mean? I finished my beer and set the empty bottle on the counter. Maybe they can see that I'm doing fine, Kelly. Maybe they're wondering why you've been telling them otherwise. For the first time in months, I saw real fear flash across my wife's face. Not fear of losing me, she'd already written me off, but fear of losing control of the narrative she'd worked so hard to create. I should probably call Eliot, she said, reaching for her purse. We have that strategy session tonight. Of course you do. She paused at the kitchen door, looking back at me with something that might have been regret. Tony, I never meant for things to get this complicated. I know, I said, and I did know. Kelly wasn't evil, just selfish and short-sighted. She'd wanted to have her cake and eat it too, keep the security of our marriage while exploring her options with Eliot. She'd thought she could manage the situation, control all the variables, orchestrate her exit without any messy consequences. She'd been wrong. After Kelly left for her strategy session, I sat in my home office and made a list of everything I needed to finalize before my move to Colorado. The house would need to be sold, but that was Kelly's problem now. Her name was on the mortgage too, and she'd have to figure out how to handle the payments without my income. My phone rang around 9 o'clock. It was Eric calling from his home office. Tony, I just wanted to check in about the timeline. We're looking at a January 15th start date if you're still interested. I'm definitely interested. In fact, I'm more excited about this opportunity than I've been about anything in years. That's great to hear. And Kelly's on board with the move? I looked out the window at the driveway, where Kelly's car was still missing. Kelly's going to be staying here, I said. We're separating. There was a pause on Eric's end. Oh, man. I'm sorry to hear that. Are you sure you still want to make such a big change right now? I'm sure. Actually, I think the timing is perfect. Well, if you need anything, time off to handle legal stuff, recommendations for lawyers, whatever, just let me know. Thanks, Eric. I appreciate it. After I hung up, I opened my laptop and started drafting an email to Liv. She was spending the weekend at a friend's house, but she deserved to hear about the separation from me before she heard it from her mother or the town gossip network. It was going to be a difficult conversation, but it was necessary. Liv was 16, old enough to understand that sometimes marriages end, and smart enough to eventually figure out why this one was ending. As I typed, I could hear Kelly's car pulling into the driveway. She came in through the garage, humming softly to herself, the sound of a woman who'd just spent 3 hours in bed with her boyfriend. "How was your strategy session?" I called out. "Really productive. Eliot thinks we're on the verge of a major breakthrough." A breakthrough, right. Kelly appeared in the doorway of my office, her hair slightly mussed and her lipstick gone. "What are you working on?" "Just some emails, nothing important." She nodded and headed upstairs, probably to shower off the scent of her lover before coming to bed. I finished the email to Liv and scheduled it to send in the morning. Then I opened a new document and started typing a different kind of message, one that would go out to a much larger audience when the time was right. Kelly thought she was 3 moves ahead in this chess game. She was about to learn that I'd been playing an entirely different game all along. The end began on a Tuesday morning in early December, with Kelly standing in our kitchen holding a stack of envelopes and wearing the expression of someone who just discovered that gravity was optional. "Tony," she said, her voice carefully controlled, "we need to talk." I looked up from my laptop, where I'd been reviewing the final details of my relocation package. 3 weeks until I left for Colorado. 3 weeks until I started the next chapter of my life, 2,000 miles away from this mess. "What's on your mind?" She held up the envelopes. "These are bills. Overdue bills, the mortgage, the car payments, the credit cards. They're all behind." "That's strange. I thought you were handling the finances this month." "I was, but the account doesn't have enough money. Where did it go?" I closed the laptop and gave her my full attention. Kelly was trying to look angry, but I could see the panic underneath. She'd finally realized that the joint checking account she'd been relying on was no longer being fed by my automatic paycheck deposits. "I opened a new account for my salary," I said calmly. "I thought you knew." "Why would you do that without telling me?" "Because I'm moving to Colorado in 3 weeks, and it seemed like a good time to start separating our finances." Kelly stared at me like I'd just announced I was joining the circus. "Moving to Colorado? What are you talking about?" "The job offer I mentioned a few months ago. I accepted it. I thought I told you." "You absolutely did not tell me." I frowned, as if trying to remember. "Are you sure? I could have sworn we discussed it. You were so supportive of my career goals." Kelly sank into the chair across from me, the overdue bills scattered across the table between us. "Tony, you can't just move to Colorado. We have a life here. Liv's in school. I have my business. We have a mortgage." "You have a life here," I corrected gently. "I have a job offer in Colorado that's too good to pass up. As for Liv, she's welcome to come with me if she wants. The schools in Boulder are excellent." "You're not taking my daughter anywhere." "Our daughter, and I'm not taking her anywhere. I'm giving her a choice." Kelly's phone buzzed with a notification, and she glanced at it automatically. Her face went even paler. "What is it now?" I asked. "Nothing, just more drama." But it wasn't nothing, and we both knew it. Over the past 2 weeks, Kelly's carefully constructed influencer persona had been crumbling in real time. The inconsistencies in her stories about our marriage had spread through town like wildfire, and her online following was starting to notice. It had started with small things, fewer likes on her posts, fewer comments from her regular followers. But then someone had started asking pointed questions in her comment sections. Nothing accusatory, just innocent observations that made other people start paying attention. "Didn't you say your husband was having problems at work? But I saw him at the coffee shop yesterday and he looked great." "I thought you mentioned financial stress, but you just posted about that expensive spa weekend?" "Your husband seems really supportive in your older posts. What changed?" Kelly had tried to manage the situation by posting more frequently, sharing more personal details, doubling down on the narrative that I was the problem in our marriage. But every post just created more opportunities for people to poke holes in her story. The breaking point had come 3 days earlier, when someone had posted a photo in the local Facebook group of me at Cal's gym, looking healthy and happy while spotting for one of the teenage fighters. The caption read, "Nice to see Tony Ward doing so well. Kelly's lucky to have such a supportive husband." The comments on that post had been illuminating. "Wait, isn't Kelly always posting about how stressed and difficult he's been lately?" "He doesn't look stressed to me. He looks like he's lost weight and gotten in great shape." "I ran into Tony at the grocery store last week. He was perfectly nice and seemed totally normal." "Maybe we're not getting the whole story." Kelly had tried to do damage control, but it was too late. Once people started questioning one part of her narrative, they started questioning all of it. and Kelly, who had never been good at keeping her stories straight, had made it easy for them. "Kelly," I said, bringing her attention back to the present, "we need to talk about how we're going to handle this separation." "We're not separating. We've been separated for months. We just haven't made it official." "That's not true." I pulled out my phone and showed her a photo I'd taken the night before. Eliot's BMW parked in the lot behind the co-working space at 11 p.m., right next to Kelly's car. "Then what do you call this?" Kelly stared at the photo, her mouth opening and closing like a fish out of water. "That's not... We were just... working late, I know. You've been working late a lot lately." The silence stretched between us, filled with all the lies and half-truths and careful omissions that had been poisoning our marriage for months. "How long have you known?" Kelly asked finally. "Long enough?" "Are you going to try to use this in the divorce?" I almost laughed. Even now, caught red-handed, Kelly was thinking about how to spin the situation to her advantage. "Kelly, I don't want anything from you except a clean break. You can have the house, the furniture, whatever. I just want out." "What about Liv? What about her? You can't just abandon your daughter." "I'm not abandoning anyone. I'm moving to Colorado for a better job and a fresh start. Liv can visit whenever she wants, and she can choose to live with me when she turns 18 if that's what she wants." Kelly's phone buzzed again, and this time she couldn't hide her reaction. Her face went white, then red, then white again. "What?" I asked. She turned the phone toward me reluctantly. It was a screenshot of a conversation from one of the local mom groups, and someone had posted it to her Instagram with the caption, "Is this you?" The conversation was Kelly talking to Sarah Martinez about my supposed drinking problem, claiming I'd been coming home drunk and aggressive, making her afraid for her safety. The problem was, 3 other people in the group had immediately contradicted her story. Dave Henderson had pointed out that he saw me at the gym every Tuesday and Thursday, stone sober and working out like a machine. Jenny from the boutique had mentioned that I'd been nothing but polite when I'd come in to buy Kelly flowers for her birthday. Marcus had casually observed that I'd seemed perfectly normal when he'd run into me at the coffee shop. "Kelly," one of the comments read, "why are you lying about Tony? We all know he's one of the good guys." Kelly was staring at her phone like it had turned into a snake. "This is all your fault," she said suddenly. "You've been turning people against me." "I haven't said a word against you to anyone." "Then how do they know?" "Because you told too many different stories to too many different people, and eventually they started comparing notes." Kelly stood up abruptly, pacing to the window and back. "This is insane. People need to mind their own business." "People don't like being lied to, Kelly, especially when the lies are about someone they know and respect. I never lied about anything important. You told Sarah Martinez I was drinking heavily and scaring you. You told the business networking group I was financially irresponsible and trying to sabotage your career. You told Marcus I was jealous and possessive. Which one of those wasn't important?" Kelly's face crumpled, and for a moment I saw a flash of the woman I'd married, vulnerable, scared, realizing that her carefully constructed world was falling apart. "I was just trying to protect myself," she said quietly. "I knew you'd be hurt when you found out about Eliot, and I thought if people understood that our marriage was already in trouble, you thought it would be easier to make me the villain. I thought it would be easier for everyone." I stood up and walked to where she was standing by the window. Outside, Mrs. Harlow from next door was walking her dog, probably hoping to catch a glimpse of whatever drama was unfolding in our kitchen. "Kelly, I want you to listen to me very carefully. I'm leaving for Colorado in 3 weeks. I'm not going to fight you on the divorce, I'm not going to try to take Liv away from you, and I'm not going to tell anyone the real reasons our marriage ended." She looked up at me with something that might have been hope. "But," I continued, "I'm also not going to keep covering for you. If people ask me directly what happened, I'm going to tell them the truth. If Liv asks me why I'm leaving, I'm going to be honest with her. And if you keep spreading lies about me after I'm gone, I will make sure everyone in this town knows exactly what kind of person you really are." Kelly's phone buzzed again, then again, then again. "You might want to check that," I said. She looked down at the screen, and I watched the color drain from her face completely. "What is it?" She turned the phone toward me with a shaking hand. Someone had posted a video to TikTok, a compilation of Kelly's Instagram posts over the past 6 months, set to dramatic music with text overlays highlighting all the contradictions in her stories about our marriage. The video had been viewed 12,000 times in the past hour. The caption read, "Local influencer gets caught lying about her husband. The comments on her posts tell the whole story. Influencer exposed. Small town drama. Did our marriage lies." "Oh my God," Kelly whispered. "This is going to ruin everything." I looked at the view count, which was climbing rapidly. 15,000, 18,000, 22,000. "Yeah," I said quietly. "It probably is." Kelly sank back into her chair, staring at her phone as the notifications kept pouring in. Comments, shares, direct messages from strangers who'd seen the video and wanted to know more. Her carefully curated online persona, the perfect wife, the supportive community member, the aspirational lifestyle blogger, was disintegrating in real time. "What am I going to do?" she asked. I picked up my laptop and headed toward the door. "That's not my problem anymore, Kelly. You made your choices, and now you get to live with the consequences." I paused at the doorway and looked back at her one last time. "Oh, and Kelly? You were wrong about something." "What?" "You said I was too emotional to be a man, but it turns out the most masculine thing I could do was stop caring about someone who didn't deserve my emotions in the first place." I left her sitting there with her overdue bills and her viral humiliation and went upstairs to continue packing for Colorado. 3 weeks later, I was gone. The moving truck pulled away from our house on a cold January morning, taking everything that mattered to me toward a new life in the mountains. Kelly stood in the driveway watching, but I didn't look back. I'd heard through Marcus that Eliot had disappeared shortly after Kelly's TikTok scandal went viral, probably deciding that a disgraced small-town influencer wasn't worth the drama. Kelly had tried to rebuild her online presence, but the damage was too severe. Her follower count had plummeted, her brand partnerships had evaporated, and she'd been forced to go back to working at the salon just to pay the bills. Liv had chosen to stay with her mother, at least for now, but she'd been texting me regularly, asking about Colorado, about the schools, about whether there was room for her if she wanted to visit. I had a feeling I'd be seeing my daughter sooner than Kelly expected. As for me, I was exactly where I wanted to be, 2,000 miles away from the wreckage of my old life, starting over in a place where nobody knew my story and nobody cared about small-town drama. Kelly had wanted to see what I looked like without emotions getting in the way. She'd gotten her wish, and it had cost her everything. The best part? Yeah, I'd never raised my voice, never thrown a punch, never done anything that could be construed as revenge. I'd simply stopped playing the role of the devoted husband and let Kelly's own lies destroy the life she'd tried so hard to curate. Sometimes the most devastating thing you can do to someone is give them exactly what they ask for. Kelly had asked for a husband without emotions, without needs, without the inconvenient tendency to care about her lies and betrayals. She'd asked for indifference, and in the end, my indifference had been the most powerful weapon I could have chosen.